So let's talk about these three variables that we see over here: hair color, skin color, eye color. And currently we set it to the values of strings, to the type of string. So now if we ever wanted to put any colors, we could just say, let's say brown. That's my hair color. What's my skin color? Well, we could say brown again. What's my eye color? Definitely brown again. And that's perfectly fine. We got a string with, we got three strings for different types of colors. But the problem comes down to later when we want to use our logic with these strings. Let's say somewhere else, we're going to go ahead and erase a lot of stuff we did previously, so we just make this a bit cleaner. Yeah, let's go ahead and erase a lot of stuff. Now, the problem comes down to when I want to use some logic to compare those hair colors or skin colors or eye colors, I might make some mistakes. What type of mistakes? Well, if you've followed me around, you should know that this brown does not equal this brown and does not equal this brown and all the other variations of uppercase, lowercase of brown. And the worst could be is if you added a space by accident inside of that, either before or after when it's trailing, right? In all of these cases, they do not equal to each other. So if you ever go and say, well, as an example, if the hair color equals, well, we're going to do it this way for now. If it equals brown, do something. Well, this is always going to be false. Well, because this has a capitalized brown, while this one has a lowercase brown, right? And the problem continues because throughout our code, string will get accepted until it's a string. It doesn't, the computer will not help you to figure out if it's the correct string you want because it doesn't know better. The computer is stupid. And this is where this comes in. This thing called enums, we could enforce what type of value we're looking for or what type of value we're allowing other programmers to set for that value, for that variable. So enums is the same thing as a class, but it does one thing different, and that it allows you to specify what type of values it could contain. Now, where do you define this enum? You could do it inside the class of where you're using it, and you should only do that if you know that that's the only place that enum is required. That specific, let's say, color is required. In our case, because color could be used in person or elsewhere in some other class, we're going to define it outside. So over here, we're going to go ahead and create a new class, Java class. But you could see that when we're creating this class, we're going to go down here and select enum. And we're going to call it color. Notice that this time, rather than saying class, it says enum. This is creating a set of values that we could utilize and everywhere else. So in this case, here we could specify our values as we feel fit. Mind you, the rule of thumb here is to make sure they're all capital. So let's say what type of hair color can we have? Let's say we could have brown, right? They're capitalized because they're final. They're kind of static final values. Yeah, right? So you're going to see what I mean by static and final. Well, one, you can't rename them and change them, so it stays the same. So make sure it's capitalized. And static because, well, you could utilize color.brown anywhere. We're accessing the enum class directly. And again, enum is the same thing as a class with the addition of having values allowed to be put. So let's see how this goes. We're defining it right now. We have brown, we have yellow, we have red, orange, and you could change it anytime or over code. And the cool part is as you add values, everywhere that you utilize this type, color, it's going to be adjusted for that. So this is great because we could expand our code as our program expands, okay? So for now, we added 4 colors, and if we want to, we could also put them in different lines. So this is depend on you. how you kind of like it. Some people prefer this because then we could expand on it later. We're going to learn that in the future. Really depends. Okay. For now, this is fine. You'll notice that if I add a comma here, it seems to be okay. There's no problems. So this is fine. Some other languages, you might have issues where you need to either put a semicolon or something. Doesn't matter. You learn the syntax as you go. But knowing enums is pretty cool. So now that we got brown, yellow, red, orange, let's go back to our person over here. And rather than saying hair color, skin color, eye color, we're going to say the type. Rather than saying string, we're going to say the type color. And you're going to see we're going to get an error because we're trying to set the value here. We're going to fix that in a second. Let's just finish this. And now because I added color in front, well, maybe we could remove the color inside the name. It depends on you. I still like this naming style better because it tells me specifically in the hair what the color is. Later on, maybe we could make a class for hair. Actually, we'll do that in a bit. So now for the string values, notice that these three strings are different. Capitalization, lowercase, etc., space, whatever. But when we go ahead and we utilize a enum, our values are restricted to what enum that enum could support. So we're going to do color. And notice as soon as I do color, all those static values are coming up. Notice this, it's a field and it's static. These little arrows, these little symbols, right? So we have color brown, color red, orange, or yellow. These are the values currently possible for us. So let's say this time our hair color is black. We don't have it. It's not shown here. We could go ahead and add it. So now color black. And then my skin color is brown or close enough. Some shade of brown, maybe olive. And my eye color is also brown if you could see my eyes. If you can't, well, too bad for you. So again, we could type it. And again, the cool part is the IntelliSense will type everything for you. So as soon as you start typing B, notice it will fill it up, press enter, and you barely have to type. Now notice that in both cases of these browns, my values was specific. If I make a mistake on my values, we get a compiler error. We're enforcing that other developers, other programmers, they obey the restrictions given. So now we won't have many variations of brown or black or whatever colors. And now over here, where we did our if statement, and we determine if it's brown or not, we could also do that by saying, does the hair color equal to, look, if you do control space, you're going to get the values that you could just put in there. So if it is brown, well, then we want to do something, right? How cool that is. And again, if you make a mistake, the compiler errors are going to show rather than no errors at all. And this is important, right? The more things we bring to compiler issues, the better it is because we could fix them right away. Actually, let's go ahead and delete this one too. So this is a cool thing. And even better, we could also do a switch. And we could say for every hair color, based on those colors, case of, look at it, case of red, do something. This is an advanced switch. We're not going to utilize it yet. So in the case of red, what do you want to do? Break. In the case of black, what do you want to do? Break. Right? In the case of, what was the other one? We already did red and black. In the case of brown, what do you want to do? In the case of orange, what do you want to do? And so forth, so on. Right? And it makes it so much cleaner. So now for each hair color, I could do something. Right? So enums is powerful because, again, look at our code. It's becoming more readable, more interesting. Now, while we're at it, it's nothing, we're done with enum for a second here. While we're at it, we were talking about hair color, skin color, eye color, and they're kind of going against, well, their name is complicated just to get a color. And if you think about hair, well, there's more to hair than just the color. There's hair length, hair width, height, girth, and the hair color. So again, we could go ahead and create a new class. And let's say we call it hair. And inside that hair, we got all the attributes representing hair. So now we're making an object part of another object. So let's say over here, we said we have the color. So here we could say the color, right? And then we have other attributes such as, let's say, the width. So the length, actually, that would be a better word. The girth of the hair, is it thick? Or let's say thickness, that sounds better. Thickness, and so forth, so on. And now whenever we create a hair object, we want to make sure that we supply those three values. So public hair, and we want to have the color, we want to have the length, and we want to have the thickness. Right? And again, we want to do this color equals color, this dot length equals length, and this dot thickness equals thickness. Right? And because they're private, we want it to be accessible outside. Do we want it outsiders to be able to change it or not? You determine that. But for now, we want these three to have some getters. So here's a trick you could do with your IDE. Put your cursor where you want to generate the code and right click at that location, generate, getter, and we're going to select all three by holding down Shift and clicking the last one and pressing OK. Now we got three getters, which is basically to allow us to see the values without changing them. And now we could come back here, and rather than saying hair color equals color black, we're going to change this to hair, and we're going to say just hair. And over here, this is an object, not an enum. It's a class, not an enum. So what we could do, we're going to initialize it over here or either inside the constructor. So we could just say, I don't know, let's just put some default values. Normally, I like to initialize everything in the constructor, but you could do it here as well. So new hair, and we supply some default values in this case. Let's say some color black, length 1F, and control P here to see what it was the last one. The thickness, let's say 1F as well. Right? So now my hair is a bit more defined. It's a bit more, hopefully I spelled hair correctly. It's a bit more specific to what a hair should be. Color, length, and the thickness, right? There could be other stuff like mine, I'm losing my hair. So here how much there's left or etc. We'll go and enhance our application in the future. Now, because I made this class of hair, this hair color doesn't work here. We got to say hair dot get color. Now we got our red, green, black, whatever the color is. The same thing goes here. Hair, oops, dot get color. Notice a couple last thing I'm just going to add here is I only type in 1 or 2 letters, and autocomplete, the IntelliSense of your compiler, of your IDE, is going to help you code. So again, make it readable, make it long, make it precise to what it does or says. Cool, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.